All right, here we are again. Letting it be. Can't wait. This is the second part of Rick or Russia, Iran, China. We won't talk about that too much. That three part, but we'll just call it Rick, like I said, and then it's gonna be what people know it to be. See, I was reading an article the other day, and I had put together what I wanted to speak about, but I just decided, just reading this article again for the second time or second-ish time. I've seen it a bunch of times, which is the three-child policy that they're changing over there, in China. And a part of all these places that I'm talking about, because what most folks don't know is that Iran is densely populated. Russia, for the places that are populated there, are densely populated. China is, as we know, densely populated. Now, what they're trying to do is conscript more soldiers right now, because I'm sure there's going to be people who come forth and say, well, I already had X amount of children, blah, blah, blah. And I'm going to tell you what this has to do with their ultimate goal. See, you can't outdevil the devil. And Rick understands that they just don't have enough of the undesirable will to see themselves die off of the earth for no good reason. It's popping, family. But Rick knows this. Rick knows that they have to be able to defend themselves at home and abroad. I wouldn't be surprised if Rick were to tell the world that they have more people than we think they do. See, the goal of Rick is to weigh it all down. I heard a man say something roughly 2 years ago, Brother Cerulean Gray, and he said something along the lines of, he was talking to BGS, and he said something along the lines of, Black people need to just have a bunch of babies and just weigh down the fucking system, the cash cow that it is. And when I heard that, I didn't cringe. I didn't think anything about it. I just said, well, I guess that could work. If it worked, it would work. But if it wouldn't, it wouldn't. But Rick's ultimate goal is one thing, I say, right? And in tandem with that is that they're going to weigh down the system. See, when I told y'all the last time that Rick didn't get money from slavery, you need to understand that they weren't the main beneficiaries of that endeavor. Could they have been what you would call unforeseen, or what's the word I'm looking for? A passive type of recipient. You get what I'm saying? Someone who benefits from you inadvertently. You know what I'm saying? They're like an inadvertent recipient of something that happens. But I'm going to tell you this, though. The places that benefited the most from slavery have always been able to fight in the world wars. Can you dig it? Whether, once again, it was direct or indirect, they've always been able to fight in these wars at a certain level. Y'all need to understand that Rick didn't ask for this. It was put on them. And they're only answering it's a natural answer to a call, which is make sure that you have the people who can do the job that you need done. And now they've made it abundantly clear, at least one branch of Rick has made it abundantly clear that they need their people to step up. Most of it, everyone didn't see what I saw, but I'm going to speak to it because I'm that kind of person. See, what I saw was a call to arms when China said 3 people. And Rick's ultimate goal is to have a silent call of arms, but I'm going to call it out so that way it has to be, I want all forces to confront one another. It's in my best interest. So, having spoke on that, going back to something that Brother D. Mac said, I didn't get to catch the exact same article, but I read something about Iran that was very interesting. And I'm not talking about the so-called two fighter pilots who died in a hangar this week. That would be something that the Americans publish, but won't publish all the accidental deaths during live fire training that were suffered, this week or today or whatever, somewhere in the world, because it happens all the time. However, neither here nor there. But the article that I read about Iran, very interesting. And it was them talking about why they haven't exactly acted out on the Soleimani thing, right? General Qasem Soleimani, just in case you guys forgot about his murder and assassination, right? That was not a killing. He was under the guise that he was coming to speak, at least on peaceable terms. And the vehicle was blown up by a drone. I mean, if that's not coward, I don't know what is. However, once again, another one of those actions that got Carrot Top up out of there. Anyway, Iran, because I don't know if y'all understand how close shit got to going all the way off. Iran is the kind of country, literally, that would, I'm not going to say willfully get themselves obliterated, because it's not going to be that easy, but it's like, they're the type to pop the shit all the way off. I need y'all to really get what I'm talking about right now. If you want to know why the Russian forces in Afghanistan if you want to know why the Russians put out bounties in Afghanistan, it's because the movies that you watch and the narrative that you hear about the Afghanis, right on, the people of Afghanistan, the whether they be Pashtun or not, Farsi speaking or not, I don't know. What I do know is this. When I was reading that article about Iran, and they were talking about why they haven't clapped back yet, right? Is because they said that they want to be able to exercise their full power on America. Whatever their full military might is, it's mighty. I need y'all to understand this with me. Get where I'm at. We on the mountain peak right now, right? We looking down, so some of the stuff is hard to see. But I'm a point it out with this telescope we got. Okay, we on this mountain. We looking down. One of the things we have to see in the situation is that the Americans, through the CIA, coerced the Afghan people, tribes and nations, right? Whomever they really are, we could call them Gentiles. I'm not going to go out of my way. But the point is this, is that they coerced them to do combat with the Russians, who were trying to help them establish a much more peaceable terms. See, Rick was trying to do things a long time ago, all right? When I talk about those lithium ore veins all those years ago, once again, Russia, Iran, and China it's not a new thing to me. This whole concept is not new. I'm trying to look through the telescope with me as we look down. Hear what I'm saying. Their goal back then was to try to weigh it all down, because they realized the resources that they were sitting upon, i.e. the lithium, the touch screen, and all the things that come with that, the 4K, blah, 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 right? The video games, everything. Even some of the more complicated things that have to do with the medical procedures and just overall technology in general. We're talking about the opium and the oil. So even some of these things date back before uh, the Russians were even in these places, right? Or known forces with arms in these places. I'm trying to break it all down, trying to get it. I'm trying to get it all together for you guys, so that way you can see what I'm talking about. The ultimate goal of weighing it all down. They couldn't do back then what they were trying to do because I said they were not the main recipients of slavery. I need y'all to really, is anybody tracking with me? Are we tracking together on this? They were trying to do what's already been done right now back then. The fact that they were not the main recipients of slavery, were passive recipients at best, meant that when things finally started to turn, when the witchcraft or the sorcery technology, as folks like to call it, began to change after world wars, by the way, all technology comes during great conflicts because they're sacrificing the so-called people and populace in order to accommodate some so-called God that they believe in. Telling y'all this. Look it up if you don't believe me. What was Rick's ultimate goal all those years ago, y'all? Why would they be digging into lithium ore veins in the first place? They all talk to the same demons and devils to some degree. Azazel, Azazel as some people call him, Azazel, he is a wicked demonic monster who has given to them all that they have. I won't get carried away in talking about him, but I want y'all to understand where this all goes back to, these weapons of war, and why it is that they seek to creep. In order to get, they believe that there need be an ultimate war to get the ultimate weapon that they have been deceived into believing could do what is harm to the Most High. We won't get carried away into all that. What we will talk about is the fact that that is America's ultimate goal. And now Rick's ultimate goal is to stop that. See, when you have time or when something happens sometimes, like let's say with this situation that I'm going through where a friend of mine had a leak from his vehicle and we're getting it remedied right now, taking the extra time and not just rushing through everything has allowed for me to be able to greater address the situation and to not take the same course of action that I was going to take at first. Having said that, it's no different for Rick. Their original course of action, I do believe, was to they were going to try to accomplish what one Adolf Hitler tried to accomplish. Because, like I said, they're all of the similar gene structure. So if the so-called Jews are truly the Khazars are of the Turkish or Turk branch, and obviously we know how they get down. But just getting back to Rick and getting back to our mountain, our telescope, I needed y'all to understand that they're not the main recipients. So their goal and their purpose was never met. Right on? Or what they thought was their goal and their purpose. What I do know is this. Because it was never met that way, they've had time to sit and gain a retrospective point of view and say, you know what? That actually wasn't the right way to go about anything. See, you can't try and don't tempt the Lord, right? You know, do y'all remember when Jesus guy was on top of the mountain some people think it's Satan, some people say it's the devil, and the devil says something to the effect of if you're the son of God, jump off of this mountain, right? And he's like, nah, I'm not going to, you're not supposed to tempt the Lord. Pretty much saying that what's been set in effect and what is already in place, don't try to go against it, because God is not going to change that for me. He's saying that the Most High God is not going to change the constructs, right? And I'm not going to use power that I'm not supposed to use, right on, this way. So they realized that, right, don't tempt the Lord. We were in a position where we could have tempted the Lord and we didn't tempt the Lord. I need y'all to understand what I'm talking about now. They were trying to get all of the witchcraft and sorcery, all the resources needed for it. They may have been told hundreds of years ago how to change everything, how to do everything. You get what I'm saying? But if you don't have the manpower to manifest this, I follow what I'm saying. They're not the main recipients. No matter if I tell y'all about the fact that Melanesian DNA, y'all know what Melanesians are, right? Black Islanders, right? No matter if I tell you that Melanesian DNA has been found all throughout Russia, and I could explain that simply being that Japhetites, or a specific group of the children of Japheth, inherited the land, okay, and were either bred out, okay, or forced into another area. Folks that people might believe are us, but are truly not us. I can't stress it enough. Sem, Kam, Japheth are triplets. Their children all look the same. That's why these Black Islanders look just like Black people and would be like, we were never slaves. Not like that ever. Right. So, yes, that DNA is found all over Russia, right? You even find some of that same DNA structure is found all over China. Did you know that? A similar genome, come on, hear me, is found throughout some of the people who live in Iran. So if you ever wondered what their ultimate goal and plan is to get back to what it is that they think that they are. That's number one. That's the hard part. It's hard for me to say that because I know that a lot of them are Gentiles, but for the few who are not, there are legitimate folks who used to look, their ancestors look so much more like this than you'll ever know. They can't tell you that. They can't express that. That would hurt their standing right now as it is. So what do? They have to go for the ultimate goal, things that they may have been told through witchcraft and sorcery. I'm going to assume well over 100 years ago, because they were already trying to manifest these things. And the same things that they were trying to manifest were used against them. Think about this. The Chinese had already manifested opium, but they had opium dens literally almost for medicinal use only. You were derelict to become an opium addict. This is before any kind of British, English soldiers coming there all fucked up from all their conflicts. And just in case you wanted to know how they opened up all these opium dens all over China and it became a thing, what happened was that the English and the British, right, those branch of Gentiles in particular, were coming back and they would be all kinds of messed up. So it was lucrative for the Chinese to set up opium dens, right on, and get these dudes high off of opium. You got women in there playing whore. This is how their population got all mixed up like that in the first place. Okay? I'm gonna really break it down real quick on that level. And so what happens is that once they once they start to open up all these dens for all these wounded soldiers, some of the soldiers and some of their, the higher up brass are like, yo, this shit is money. We can turn the locals out on this shit. Boom. So they set up shop and they get them hooked. I need y'all to understand. Right now, one of the active battles in the world is consumption of opiates and opium in general. I don't know if y'all knew this, but it's a major concern. So they did this 200 years ago. Think about what I'm saying. The Rick was already on board for what they needed to do, for what they needed to have. If they had never had that, think about this. That set them back so far because the British and the English got the Chinese. Listen, I want y'all to think about what I'm saying. The same opium that China already had access to through Afghanistan, okay, through the Hindu Kush region, okay, everything that they already had access to. The British said, look, we're going to get these dudes to pay for the dope that is produced over here with their own silver. They bankrupted the Chinese. I need y'all to really understand what happened. Because if you don't get these parts, then understanding what I'm saying, like, yo, Rick was never the main contingent. They were never the main beneficiary of slavery. So the British and the English are main contingent and beneficiaries of slavery. During the same time they're doing this to the Chinese, okay, the same point when this is all happening, can you dig it? They go back and they still have black people shackled up in chains. So it's not like I'm not reaching. What I'm saying is actually very accurate. And so you need to understand that Rick was set back so many different times and undermined so many different times by those that are the main beneficiaries of, slavery. Rick's goal of weighing it all down back then, trying to get back. If you cannot tempt the Most High God, you can't force his hand. You can't make what is wrong right because you realize that you played your own you made your bed full of rocks, right? And broken glass. You played your hand. No, what's happening with you, bro? I'm good, bro. I'm just breaking down how we need to see Rick in a different light. Because if people see Rick in the light of that, it's all dictatorial, it's all authoritarianism, it's all totalist government type stuff. And for people who don't understand that, there's very few differences between totalitarianism, fascism, so-called what they think is oppressive communism, right? Just straight up dictatorial type of setting, pretty much a kingdom. You're a king without calling yourself one. So, and this is why they think of all these different terms. A president, that's a king, all this stuff. You vote for a king every 4 years. And you can change who the king is. Right. Even though I've already read to y'all before that the Romans voted there was a different Caesar every year. So no person ever held the power. Anyway, point being this. Rick was undermined so many times throughout the come up. So we're talking about the Chinese getting doped on their own stuff. Listen, the Chinese got hooked to opium that they had been using. We're talking about, look, these movies will show you white-skinned Mongoloid Chinese. I'm talking about Chinese that look like me and you, dude. So y'all need to really get with the program. 200-300 years ago, they were still fighting the incursions, whether people understand that or not. Right. A part of the reason why Taiwan, a part of the reason why Hong Kong and all that stuff doesn't want to be considered mainland is because that beef is never going to end. Those who know that they're closer to the Aboriginal people, the indigenous people of that land, and those that know that they come from a Mongoloid bloodline are always going to beef. There will be no peace there. You can believe that. Having said that, though, right, is the undermining of them with their own utensils was so devastating. Because like I said, they didn't have a slave populace to boost them back up. China was the only place I can think of in the whole world that was producing cotton during slavery. Right. I don't know if anywhere else in the world, like I'm talking about, that actually produced nothing compared to the US, but still sizable that it was monitored. So having said that, people don't understand. Right. Once again, folks don't get it, do they? Right. That was another way they hurt Rick. I don't talk about all the different little things that were done, but these are just that's just the basic little part. Look at how they sanction Russia and Iran right now. You can talk about how they try to sanction China, but what China did was what the Russians didn't do and what the Iranians never could do, which was the United States offered the ability. This is how China made all of its money. So after World War II, I know I'm all over the place, but I have to be all over the place so that way we can put it all together. After World War II, and coming into what people would call the Cold War era, right? So this would be the late 40s, early 1950s. The Americans pushed forward a few initiatives, and they made it to where the Chinese could start producing toothbrushes, combs, a whole bunch of cheap stuff, right? Cheap stuff. The Russians didn't want to do it. Now, I'm going to tell y'all something. This hurt Rick. Rick hurt himself by being prideful. You understand? Because what Rick was supposed to do, what Russia was supposed to do, was he was supposed to have hopped on that deal with China. Didn't do that. That's a major reason right now. The Americans don't talk about it. Okay, they don't. You can talk about when George Bush sent jobs out of America in the 2000s, but shit been made in China for a long time. And I'm trying to break it down to people how it happened. And they went from making all these basic menial products to finally breaking their way into making some high-end, high-line products. Okay, so this is why the China contingency part of Rick is able to somewhat financially stand up against the mega conglomerate that benefited the most, okay, from chattel slavery. I'm trying to break it down that they had in their grasp, in their power, and they had within their reach the resources before anybody was going into Africa and raping the continent of everything that it has. The Chinese, the so-called, whoever you consider the Chinese, the Iranians and the Russians, the whole USSR, because y'all got to understand, it just became Russia, okay, 40, 50 years ago. It ain't been Russia that long. So when I say it hasn't been by itself that long. You get what I'm saying? There's people who we grew up, who I know, who knew Russia and who knew the whole Eastern Bloc as the USSR. That's what they knew it as. Right. In short, the Soviet Republic. So I don't see how anyone who understands that much or who at least knows that much can't put together what I'm saying. And they were not the main beneficiaries of slavery. Okay? They didn't. The Russians' legacy with black people is not known for hitting niggas across the back. Now, you could probably go and find some instances where this shit took place. I'm sure you can. What I'm telling you is that was not what they did. That was not their modus operandi. It wasn't. And so now we have a situation where people are trying to figure out what is happening over there with these cats. And I'm telling y'all, they got shuck and jived out of their own money, out of their own resources, valuable resources that at the time they didn't realize how valuable they were. Then we'll say, you know, from the time that they got hooked to opium to the time that they were getting kicked out of, because the Chinese, like I told y'all, were helping the Afghanis to mine those lithium ores. Okay, now the Russians came in, as opposed to Rick working together, they all fist fighting, and you know, one is biting the other's neck, so they never get nowhere. And because America's the most duplicitous place on earth, they use their duplicitous nature to convince the locals to fight. Not only, understand me now, because the locals fought against the British when they first pushed their way up in there, you know, and into the Middle East in general, what you consider the Middle East, when they forced the Saudis to become oil barons and oil kings. They forced that on them. That's not what the Saudis asked for. So when you look at how everything goes and you start to understand it, you start to see, okay, these groups are working for an ultimate goal that they could have achieved a long time ago, but they weren't willing to work together for it. Now, Rick's goal is to work together and make it pop. I'm trying to tell y'all, it's about to go down. I'm never too far off. Okay, all these crazy shootings going on lately, right? I'm gonna use a couple of these. I'm gonna use a few of these shootings as analogies because it's been happening everywhere. But I'm gonna use the one in Florida in particular. Now I need y'all to understand this. I'm an intelligent brother. I'm a very, very sound-minded person. I don't jump the gun very often. The video that they show us of these shooters, it's only two scenarios. And this is why I indicate, they claim it's terrorism. I'm going to indicate something, which they called it domestic terrorism, right? I thought that was kind of cute because they never call white folks blasting everybody and burning up their houses in the end. They don't call that domestic terrorism. No, he just was depressed, right? He had mental health issues. Sure, like I told everybody this was going to happen, right? That Red Flagistan, Red Flagistan is live and popping, okay? It is live and popping. It's happening. Can't nobody escape that. The little dudes that shot up the party, though, the three dudes get out the white SUV, right? Or CUV. Anyway, they get out. Now, they don't have, two dudes have so-called rifles, but they look like SMGs, okay? All right? They look like submachine guns. They don't look like battle rifles or even assault rifles. And the one guy gets out with the pistol. And I watched this. It's a very short video. Now, two things took place, y'all. The first and least likely is that these three individuals are super highly trained operators. And this was a fucking targeted hit. This not just some gang shit. It was a targeted hit. It's beyond some gang shit. And the reason why I say that is because the clip is literally 4 seconds, 5 seconds long. They get out, they go, and then they come creeping back to the car. Now, the reason why I say that they have to be this least likely, but you would have to be high-level operators, gauging the size of the magazines in the video. This is stuff that you look at when you're actually trained, right? Based on what I see, I'm like, even if these magazine capacities are double stacked, and let's say they hold 50 each, that means that they said there was 100 rounds taken from the scene, roughly, right? Even if these are fully automatic weapons. The dudes that I seen weren't built nothing like me. These are skinny dudes. So the recoil of the weapon, you want me to believe that these guys went in there. Listen, I'm talking about, I don't know if anybody who's ever shot an automatic weapon knows what I'm talking about. The recoil of that, you can't force me to believe, unless this guy came in there and was shooting super duper low, the way that it's going to jump, the way he could fall back. Anyway, there's too many dangers involved in that. Controlled burst is the best way to go. And that takes a couple moments. Okay, that's controlled burst, controlled burst. So I mean, you're not letting 25 go though in the controlled burst. So I'm like, these guys got out, unloaded 100 rounds in 4 seconds or 3 seconds or less, because they're coming back within 5 seconds. Got 20 people and killed 2 others. I need y'all to understand this. How often does that type of shit happen? Ever. Almost never. So either these guys are super duper high trained operators, highly unlikely, highly suspect of that. And when I say that super duper high trained, these guys would maybe, in my wildest imagination, a guy would sweep coming from the ground up, and the other guy would sweep coming from the ground up, and they both would have been, one guy would go first, the other guy would go second, peeling off. One guy would let his stuff go, he peels off. The other guy lets his stuff go, he peels off. The other guy's blasting with the pistol, and then he peels off, and then they're all leaving. But it's too much for me to believe that. Right on. And I'll get back to Rick in a moment. I need y'all to understand what's happening here is why they're calling this shit terrorist or the acts of domestic terrorism. I need y'all to really get the mindset that it takes to imbue that onto someone. And then I need y'all to get that all these shootings lately, Red Flagistan, like I told everybody was going to happen, this is all part of it. Okay? Rick has nothing to do. Rick can't control the fact that the Congress of the United States decided to pass an anti-Asian hate nonsense. Right on? Does it even make sense? No. But it's just them trying to downplay how high the tensions are with Rick. Anybody who knows anything about Russia knows that those are some white, Asian-looking folks over there and some Turk-looking folks. And some of them be even looking like they black people sometimes. You be like, We all know what everybody knows who Iran has a distinct population. They have an Afro population, they have a mixed population, and then they have the integrated Turk population. The Chinese have a strong Mongol presence. We all know that. They have partial contingency of Mongol and watered down indigenous, and then they have an even smaller populace of people that are still pretty much from the indigenous branch, but you'll never really get to see or hear about them. These cats who hopped out of this SUV, the CUV, right? Like I said, the option number 2 is that they redacted the video. And the reason why they redacted the video is because they don't want y'all to know what really happened and what really took place. They abandon this vehicle. They get rid of it and all this stuff. Now, everything looks professional to me. Nothing looks like rookie stuff. I mean, at that point, it all looks professional. It all looks like, you this is not your first time doing this. So I couldn't tell you why or how all these little things all come together, but I know that they do, because I'm quite sure on some level, some way, shape, and form, these guys deal with somebody who's probably from one of these places. But anyhow, let me just cycle back to what I'm talking about with Rick, because I just wanted to relate some modern stuff to the situation. Rick's problem is this. Like I said, they had everything that they already had access to withheld from them by those who were the main beneficiaries of the 400-year prophecy. Rick, coming into understanding of the 400-year prophecy, made theirself unwitting allies to the idea of righteousness, because they're starting to see that they can't accomplish or achieve anything. They've never accomplished or achieved anything without Black people, and there will be no earth without the salt of the earth. That's a fact. So Rick's goal lies into one thing. They have to work together, but beyond working together, they have to weigh down the system. And what I mean by weigh down the system, do y'all realize that the Chinese own, man, like, we're talking millions of acres here, right? Millions. Now, I know that it doesn't seem like this is what's taking place because folks don't really understand it. But on those shipping containers, when folks cross up the border illegally, right? When cats are flying in somebody's private charter plane, right? That's not going to get checked by customs or none of that. They're going to go to this place, fuel up, and keep flying. And they pay for the airspace, so they're good to go. Cats who are getting brought up in here, they're building up the forces that are going to have to be used to fight toe-to-toe. Black people can't fight toe-to-toe with the group that is not even their self. I need y'all to understand me. Hear me. When the Black man talks about fighting against his oppressors, he's talking about mainly the English, mainly the British, right? A few Deutsch, a few French, and a few Germans, a couple Portuguese, and a handful of Spaniards. Can you hear me? So oh yeah, and the Italians, greasy ass Italians, not gonna forget about them. So when you look at this, those are your main enemies. But they're the main beneficiaries. The Ruskies, the Chinese, and the Iranians are not. Okay? That's not, I can't stress that part enough. I don't know if y'all don't get what I'm saying. I pray to God that it's really registering to everybody, because if that is really not stressed enough, if I leave that on the table and I believe that everyone understands, and I don't think that everybody really, I know that y'all might get it, but people coming later might not really get it. They might skip forward. So I need to stress it all throughout so that way they understand that part, is that the main beneficiaries are your enemies, not those that were subsidies. Okay? Okay? They're a sub. They are literally underneath. Okay? Your beef is with the English, just like their beef is with the English, because that's who's been fucking everybody over. There's a specific branch of the Francs who has to be, toe-to-toe dealt with. Right. So they have to, they have to pack it. And they have to do what they have to do. China's 3-person policy is so that way they can go. Right now, as we speak, folks think that they're trying to invade the continent and this, that, and the other. Before there was anybody ever trying to stop them, before the English and all these guys were fighting so-called crusades and all that, who you believe to be the Chinese always and already had friendly relations with what you believe to be the continent. Wow. Now they're trying to rape the continent. I know they are, or at least that's what it seems like, but they're like, nah. They were in the best position. This is how Rick sees it. This group of Gentiles, these black-skinned Gentiles over there. Now, I'm not talking about us. I'm talking about the black-skinned Gentiles in Africa. They already had the ability to go toe to toe with the worst of who Rick knows that they are. Rick seen it. These guys forfeited their chance. So now we have to do what they didn't do. We have to take all the things that were supposed to be used to fight against the ultimate evil, these guys didn't do. So now we have to hold that burden. Right. Because these black Gentiles were what? Were coerced by niggas who you think are your people, who come from the continent. Just because they look like you don't mean they're you. Fuck. I don't know how else to express that. Cats who you think are you sold all of us out and got these black Gentiles over there in Africa to sell us to the worst of the heathen, or at least a branch of the worst of the heathen. Right. Right. So they're they're guilty. And they were a main beneficiary and recipient of slavery. Thank you very much. Yes, they were. The continent was not full-blown invaded until the early 1900s. I need y'all to really understand that part, that they had their own roaring whatever for like 130, 140 years before they really even started to have problems. They let that happen. Rick was not in a position to stop anyone from doing anything. People be like, they're part of the problem. No, these are branches of groups. So they can what could if the Turkish Empire was the largest empire at a certain point, and people all attest to this, what could Rick do if they're all in some way tributes to the Turkish Empire? Nothing. That's right. Not a damn thing. So the hand that they've played is the only natural hand. I expect a Gentile to be a Gentile. That's the difference between me and everyone else. I expect them to do fucked up shit. So when they do it, I'm not like, oh, why are they doing that? Dude, they're a Gentile, cuz this is how they get down. Why does a dog do what a dog? Why does a dog do what a dog does? Because it's a fucking dog, homie. That's why. Okay? And these Gentiles are no different. Rick is a contingency of Gentiles. Like I said, with a sprinkle of the salt of the earth. Crushed sometimes even. Just dust essence. That's not my problem. What I'm trying to express to you is that there is a group out there. There are groups out there who are trying to weigh down, right now as I speak, who are trying to find ways to weigh down the system and bring it all to a screeching halt and make you realize who it is that you are. Don't nobody have to believe me. That's Rick's goal. Their goal is not world domination. There's nothing to dominate. All that stuff is fake. They know that. So here's the difference. Rick understands that there's nothing in outer space for you. What's popping, family? Rick already knows that there's nothing for Rick in the heavens. It's all here on earth. Rick understands that. But Rick realizes that we played our hand, or at least the branch that we come from played our hand for us 400 years ago, 500 years ago. That hand has been played. So all we can do now is roll with the punches. Like I said, the Chinese were circumspect enough to become producers of menial goods. The same menial goods that people go into stores and steal when they don't have money. The same menial goods that sometimes are locked in cases now, i.e. the razors and other high-end toiletries. Right. It's not China's fault that Russia didn't have the good sense to do that. And it's also not China's fault that the Iranians were never invited in on something like that to do that. Right. See, like I said, when not being the main recipient, not being from a main place that actually benefited from slavery, hurt them. It didn't help them. It hurt them. Because is it a MI6 or MI5, whatever it is over there, in the UK, Britain and stuff like that, right? The CIA. You follow what I'm saying? And what would have been the beginning of Mossad, right? Those terrorists, right? All three of those terroristic groups. When they started to play their hand and get the populace of the Afghani people to revolt against the Russians, right? Successfully. I need y'all to understand this. If you promote an ideology long enough, you will believe it. So the same CIA, Mossad, and damn MI5 and MI6 cats who was telling the Afghanis that y'all are free people, that you fought for your freedom, they believe that to a certain degree. So you have rogue elements in all of these groups that I'm talking about. But the main part is that they were used to get Rick off balance in the modern era, or what you believe to be the modern era. 60 years ago is not that long ago, brothers and sisters. So, right. So somebody born in 1961, okay, is 60. Can you dig that? And in 1961, right on, the Chinese were still full bore in Afghanistan, mining the ore veins. This is after they didn't came. Listen, they've been they've been producing goods and all that type of stuff for a long time, for almost 20 years at that point, 15, 16 years. So they've made money. They have money to actually do these type of endeavors. And it wasn't like it probably didn't cost that much money for them to do that. But when they struck big. Now, I don't know how they found the lithium ore vein, if it was known about, if people knew what lithium was hundreds or even thousands of years ago. I'm sure they had an idea of what it was. But once again, when they found it, right? The U.S. has already done what? Let them make so much money. So the main beneficiary of slavery is not going to tell a group who they already fucked over by making them dope heads, and then by getting that same dope head population to come over here and slave on the railroads, and might have been lucky enough to just have to wash clothes for these niggas. Right. If y'all ever wonder where the laundromats and all that shit came from them washing niggas' clothes on the railroad. Anyway, I'm trying to break it down. Not all Chinese are racist. It's impossible. The history says otherwise. Right on? The Russians are not all racist. It's impossible. Their history says otherwise. Iran cannot be a racist place. It's impossible. Just because you're put in a certain position doesn't mean that you asked for that. The position that the Chinese were put in once they were forced out of Afghanistan, they didn't ask for that. So when people call the Chinese copycats and this, that, and the other, the Chinese are only doing what white people have been doing for the last almost 400 years. Right. They're like, so it's okay for them to steal black people's inventions all the way, take everything from niggas. But it's not okay for us to copy these motherfuckers, even though they stole it. Okay. See, Rick got smart. Rick dropped all that honor shit because they realized that there is no honor with these devils. Okay, Rick said, we might do some devilish shit, but they said, man, there is no honor with these cats. Not even a little bit. So, right, after getting their asses whooped up out of Afghanistan, the Ruskies too, right after them got being the fuck bop up out of there, right? What do the Americans do? Come and steal the lithium. Touch screen monitors go back to as early you could claim as the late 70s, but I know for a fact they were around in the late 80s and early 90s. I know for a fact touchscreen was around back then. Okay? So if you're wondering, right, where'd they get that from? It didn't just happen, y'all. It didn't. When I was 15 years old, I had a job at a place called PC Salvage. I used to work on, we used to recycle everything electronic, right? Everything electronic. And one of the jobs we used to do was called monitor testing. And the guy I worked for, what he used to do was he was sending working computers and working monitors to places like China and Africa. This is 15 years ago, y'all. This is a long time ago. I know it's hard, but he was doing this even years before that. But by the time I was working for him, it was full bore. And I used to test the monitors. And you used to put it up on a little station and plug it all in and all that, right? And one of the oldest monitors I ever seen was a touchscreen monitor. And I remember Mark telling me, that's the man I used to work for, Mark Bracking. And Mark said, yeah, man, he said some of this stuff was out when I was a young man, when I was just barely 20. I was like, yeah, he's like, some of this stuff has been around forever. And he's like, and then he joked, but then I thought about it, it was right. And, he said, yeah, he said the government had stuff like this probably in the 60s and 70s, though. Think about what I'm saying. Okay, I had to relate a real life story just so I could tie it together. The idea, we already know how this government works over here. They use something they wear it out before they give it to you. They make sure they know how all the ups and downs of it. So that way they know how to produce it to the public and they know how to promote it to the public. If they're going to promote it to the public at all, it might just be a private endeavor. However, let me just show you what I'm talking about. You see this right here? Right? If I touch it, it does that. Okay, one second. Let me turn the brightness down. Bam, that might help. See that right there? Right. Okay. If I touch here, the screen changes, right? You follow what I'm saying? So that phenomena, they probably achieved that almost 60 years ago. I know it's hard to believe that, but these are the types of things that Rick got shut out of for all those years. Right. These are the sorts of things that Rick had to literally wait and copy, right, just so they could try to keep up. Because Rick has numbers on their side. They now have a somewhat of a modernized qualitative effort, but Rick has numbers, not sheer quality on their side. The quality that they do have is high quality, but it's not in a high enough volume to actively suppress their enemies. Because if Rick thought that they could go toe-to-toe right now, they would go toe-to-toe right now with the great devil. And that would be the English devil. That's Rick's goal. I don't know if y'all understand it. Rick has no plans by any means of this shit ending in a peaceful way. What do you think the buildups around? Why do you think the Russians are doing what they're doing? Building up their borders the way that they're building them up, doing everything that they've been doing. What do you think the point of that is for? Right. Why do you think the Chinese have been pushing out their troops and their navy? All dude, it was just admitted by our navy not too long ago that China's navy is superior to ours. They're not going to tell you that. They're not going to come out there and just say that outright. See, you have to wait your opponent out. And Rick didn't know that they had to wait this devil out. I don't know, once again, if I was Rick and I came into the understanding, if I just believed, right, that 400 years is all these jokers had to pretty much run everything, and then it's all going to change, I too would start to act a certain type of way at the end of that endeavor. Because guess what? I don't owe it to anybody anymore to hold my peace. But if you didn't know, i.e., all the wars, all the famine, it's hard to remember something like a prophecy that, yo, these black people, so-called black people that are actually very brown-skinned, that live in that place that's called America, those are actually, those are the children of Israel, a whole lot of them, at least enough of them that it matters so much that they're a group that we need to start monitoring again. We don't know when that happened. We don't know if the internet is what put Rick on. Is y'all hearing me? Rick was kept out of the game for so long, and they've had so many different things going on in that region of the world for so long that Rick they've had no choice, no option but to be who they've been. But why do you think all these groups come and cozy up next to black people? They do dumb shit to niggas, and niggas do dumb shit to them. What else is new? Right. But Rick is the one and only I don't know if y'all understand this. If we have a friend, Rick is it. But we don't have any friends. But if we had anything like one, Rick is it. Peace, 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 bro. I hope and I pray all is well, man. You know, I love talking about this because I have to break this down because last time I really couldn't because there was a lot going on. You know, we're just trying to explain Rick's history. We're not talking about Rick's history. I'm just freestyling, right? And I just pray, bro, that folks realize that as I stress that they were not the main beneficiaries of slavery, that folks start to understand like, yo, they never had money to fuck off like America. They never had none of the stuff that America's had to play with it. So when they say that the Russians now have a weapon system that's better than the Americans, the only question is you can ask yourself is how? How did a group who literally had a head start above everybody get so far behind? That's because the magic of Babylon is failing. You know, I forget the prophet who said that they tried to apply all different kinds of balms to Babylon, right? All different kinds of ointments, pretty much, and that none of them worked. You get what I'm saying? And what I take from that is that we're at that point. You get me? Where America they're trying to heal and fix it now, and nothing will work. Nothing's working. Listen, nothing will work. Can you dig that? I promise y'all nothing's gonna work. Okay? Even if you think it worked, just know that something's wrong. Once again, the Russians have no intent on being friends and allies and buddy and chummy with America. They have no intent on that. None. Think about what I'm saying. Why would you want to share the same hell with bastards who you know that held you out of all the fat and all the goodness of the come up? We're talking about, do y'all understand? While there were Russians starving, the British were eating good. While the Chinese were starving, Americans eating good, English eating good. All these cats who were the main, right? While cats are starving, the French is eating right. But this is after the fact of slavery. Can you dig what I'm saying? So it's just unfortunate that people don't look at it like that. But all these same groups that was eating good, they was starving before slavery jumped off. And the cats that were starving after slavery were eating good before it jumped off. Right. Man, the Chinese know that they'll never get back to the opulence that they used to have. You'd have to have the real people in charge again. And there is no, the Mongols won that battle. Right on? The Mongoloids won that war and that struggle. They're the victors in that. So the original people are not even in charge. So you can never get back to the level. You can't be something that you're not, is what I'm trying to say, right? On that term. But what I'm saying is that before slavery, all these places that I'm talking about, Rick was doing fine before slavery. I can't stress that enough. I cannot stress that part enough. Rick was doing just fine before slavery. Now, before I go off just a half a second again, I'm about to caveat and go to another side, and we're going to act like it's not even Rick for a second. Just listen to my point. The children of those who I accuse of being the real problem, which are black bastards in the Middle East who were living in caves or whatever kind of castles, living in right now as I make this, they're laughing their ass off. You understand? As I make this video, they laughing their ass off. Because they know I ain't lying. But no one cares enough to put everything together. And they're part breed and half breed and eighth breed children or children of their children, when they began to struggle, because if you decide that once again, you can't make somebody something that they're not. Okay? So just because traitor Romans helped the barbarians overthrow Rome, and they put the barbarians in figurehead positions, doesn't mean that these barbarians are Romans. And it doesn't mean, and history dictates, not me, that they could not maintain the way of life of the Roman culture once they overthrew the culture. So what I'm trying to say is that you can't make, once again, you cannot make somebody something that they are not. And the children of these characters went out of their way. Once again, I need y'all to really get this part, okay? Because it's not for nothing that the Crusades was fought. All right? Rick didn't play a part in making the Crusades to happen. But Rick is an inadvertent recipient to how everything played out after the Crusades. The eighth breed, the quarter breed, the part breed children of folks who I promise to God are 8 and 9 feet tall till this day. Some of them probably even larger than that. These are genetic abominations. And yet, that bothers no one. The fact that there's big black bastards who are not even supposed to be on this earth in that form, who done procreated with cats who God only knows where they came from, and put those children in power. Rick cannot help but to be a recipient of those sorts of things. That was not their choice, y'all. I need y'all to get this. It is no more their choice than it was your choice to be born in nigga skin. Thank you very much. So I'm not defending Rick, but I gotta let y'all know that Rick is not in the same position that the rest of the world is in. They're in a unique place. I used to tell y'all all the time, I'm waiting for him to come get me. I know that I'm on a dossier somewhere, okay? They don't have to have me as an ally or as a foe, neutral or anything like that. Him right there, he's telling the truth. And a truth that they can't come out. Why would they come out and say that they come from the bowels of the earth or that they originate from a certain region? They're not going to come out and say these things. And when they do say it, people laugh at them. So why would you keep saying something that people be laughing at? That makes zero sense, huh? But what does make sense is that if you tell yourself, hey, if we live this and we ride this out, we might be able to eventually rectify what is wrong. They can't do the Most High God's job, but they can be in a position to play the part that they're meant to play. And I'm telling y'all, man, my people, step aside. I've sounded the trumpet. I'm telling y'all, Israel and strangers alike, Israel, strangers and Gentiles with a good mind and good heart, okay, whose spirit in them is not all the way foul. Check this. Stand aside, okay? Because what you're about to see happening in the next 6, 7, 8 months, a year, things you've never seen. I never knew, folks, look, I never seen as much nonsensical violence as I ever seen now. There weren't no internet in the 90s. And see, this is the difference, what y'all need to understand. And all these different eras of violence, there wasn't all this so-called, they call this the age of information. The information age. And in the information age, folks is acting as ignorant as they've ever been. So I need y'all to have some good intel. I'm trying to give y'all some good intel without saying too much, because I understand that I'm going to build this series up. This is going to be a nice one because Rick got so much different things to say. Like my next one is going to be talking almost solely about Iran, and then I'm going to focus on China, then I'm going to focus on Russia, and then I'm going to, jump on some friend stuff, right? I might even do the friends ones next because I wanted to talk about the cartel. Let me just caveat into that real quick. Shit has been going down so fucking crazy. Check this shit out. This is how I know it's next level. The cartel in Mexico, the Jalisco New Generation cartel, the same ones that I said that they have detected is out here in the Great Pacific Northwest, as they say, right? Them cats is down in Mexico. Dig this. There's an elite group of police officers. These cats are, obviously there's some dirty ass motherfucker on the payroll because they're finding out where all these dudes live and all that shit, right? And they're killing these cats in front of their families, taking them out. Now, I don't think it's right or wrong any one way, because who knows if these cats are dirty cops or what? I don't know. I have no idea, right? But I'll tell you this. Those same cats who are not afraid to mark out a cop in Mexico, trust and believe, they're not afraid to mark out a cop here in America. And they're and the Jalisco New Generation Cartel is way closer to America. And one of these where people start to understand, and then if anybody knows anything, right on. If anybody knows anything, they know that the Iranians have been blamed for uh, obviously supporting terrorism and all this other stuff, blah 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 blah. But they're blamed for supporting specific characters, i.e., cats like Al Qaeda, and i.e., cats like the so-called Taliban. Follow what I'm saying, y'all. They all connected together. The ruthlessness, the old school, touch on it, like I'm gonna hack your ass up. That's old school. That's not savage and savage. You know what I mean? That's not barbarian. You know, that's just old school shit. Where that people, they so used to guns. Guns aren't. That's not normal. Guns are pretty new, but they don't know nothing though. But like I said, these cats is down there in Mexico touching up these cops. If they ain't afraid to do that there, what makes people think that they're afraid to do it here? But the greater question is that if these dudes who are doing business, you know what I'm saying, what's happening, bro? But if these cats who are doing business with, think about what I'm getting at right now. If the cartel does business with the Taliban, who does business with the Iranians, who does business with the Russians, who does business with the Chinese, who have opened up shop in many different locales and locations here in America, if they're all together in on it, if they're all in on it, if they're all doing their thing, right? What makes y'all think that they won't go ape shit crazy one day over here if they were just given the go ahead and the head nod? Right. I know y'all don't want to believe this, but some of those dudes that you think are Mexicans who be standing out in front of Home Depot, they're not Mexican at all. I know cats don't want to believe that. I know people don't want to believe that nigga's actually really a Taliban agent who's a sleeper. I know niggas don't want to believe that because he speaks Mexican. I mean, he speaks Spanish and he talks just like a Mexican. Right on, he got that. He has their type of drawl or accent. Where I know cats don't want to believe that. Right from the Middle East, and you think he's Consuelo. Right. Can't tell the difference sometimes. You think that that Farid is Du Yang. You think that Du Yang is Consuelo. Can't tell the difference sometimes. I'm trying to break down what's so important. Their ultimate goal is to make it to where you can't, if you can't tell who you're really dealing with, you don't know who's in your home. You don't know. You think that dude's Mexican because he could really be a sleeper agent for the Chinese. Come on. You thought that dude was Asian, but really, he's working. He's here on behalf of the Iranian government. Colder, quiet as kept. He might even be Russian and just look like a white skinned native or a white skinned Asian type person. Might even be a Rusky. Come on, it's way deeper than y'all. If you don't put the two things together, it's way deeper than you could ever really imagine it to be. And their ultimate goal is to be here, to be everywhere they need to be, but to really be here in such a strong force and in such a strong numbers that when they decide to do what they do, look, they've already incepted their way into the military. Let's not talk about the military here in America. You know how many Padawowskis and Gorginskis are in the military, cuz? Don't play with me. You know how many Villanuevas, okay? How many Castillos, okay? How many Gonzalez's, Gomez's, Fernandez's, okay? Hernandez, whatever you want to say, Garcia, all of that. Huh? And they got a little sprinkle dinkle, okay, of Duyan and Fareed, like I said. They don't let too many of them in unless they. But if you don't know that this nigga's he's a sleeper from another country, and America is quick to let somebody earn their uh their citizenship in the military, quick to do that if you speak another language. Man, the shit is so deep. And so people want, I'm trying to explain that once again, all these cats and all these groups that I'm talking about, not one of them is the main beneficiary of our suffering. Right. So they can't, it's not their job to right the ship, but they've seen the wrongdoing that's been done. But there are so many ignorant, so many unlearned, so many uncouth of our people that Rick has to, once again, play a really passive role in trying to push these things further along. Because it's not about you having a strong coalition with them. It's about you understanding what they're trying to achieve. So that way you can be less of a detriment to yourself. But like I said, if a cat don't know that this dude in this house, you think he's Chinese, but really he's Iranian. Straight all the way Iranian. But you think he's Chinese because he speaks fluent Chinese and he told you he's Chinese. What else are you going to say? What, you going to tell him he's not all of a sudden? You see what I'm saying? It's things like that. And friends, because all their friends look like them. If you get a real Pashtun Afghani, okay, and you get a real Iranian and a real Iraqi, okay, and you get, let's say, a real Yemeni, you put them all side by side. I'm talking about the realest of them. You can't tell them apart. Even if you get the white skin versions of them, you still can't tell them apart like that. So when you're trying to tell me that here in America, that just because this person speaks a certain language, you think that this is who they are, or you're convinced that's who they are and that's what they are, that's off tops, that's wrong. And we all know it's wrong. See, I refuse to believe that a person could watch what is considered television in any medium, or even the screen, just looking at a monitor of some sort, right? And a screen of some sort, and they see a certain action take place, and they're entertained by that action that they think is, let's say, fanciful, but they don't believe that things like that take place in real life. Like, i.e., folks don't want to believe that the cats who were coming in here from the so-called south of the border, I know this is hard to believe. When D. Treasy was telling everybody, when, you know, President D. Treasy was telling everybody, yo, some of these are bad actors, bad characters, right? You know, the worst. He can't tell y'all that he was debriefed that some of these dudes who were moonlighting as Salvadorians and Guatemalans, some of these cats who were moonlighting as Costa Ricans, some of these cats who were moonlighting as Mexicans is actually from, well, way over there. Right. Thank you. I don't know if y'all remember this. Years ago, I had told y'all there was a dude I had met, and he was claiming that he was Arab, and I had got him to admit that he was black. That same dude could pass for, if he wanted to say, if he had told people, walked around, told people that he was Mexican, he could have did that. If he had told people that he was some sort of Asian descendancy, he could have done that. If he had, once again, he could have been like he's a biracial, he could have done any of that. And you wouldn't be able to deny him that he's of that persuasion. Unless there's just no one of those people who look like that. You get what I'm saying? That's my point. So if you have a range of looks within a culture, and I'll give you Perfect example. Let's compare a guy like who's supposed to be like an English British dude. Let's think of a couple of them real quick. Nah, because he's not even British. He's a Jew. Daniel Craig is a Jew. Not sure if y'all knew that. Okay, he's a Jew. Anyway, uh, but let's just say somebody like that, right? Let's let's pick a person who looks like him. Blondish hair, dead grass hair, sky eyes, right? And you have somebody who looks, I don't know, like they might even have some nig in them. Who's a pretty big name that people can understand what I'm talking about. Say like Will Ferrell. Let's go there. Say like Will Ferrell, right? Let's compare from a dude like Daniel Craig to a guy like Will Ferrell. Two totally they you think they look similar until you actually look at them and be like, man, they look way different. Word. But this is the kind of variance that a population like a place like Russia or China might have, where they look similar, but when you actually look at the phenotype, they're different. Like Will Ferrell has naturally very curly hair for a white person. Naturally, be it the term here. Right on. Where Daniel Craig has straight hair. Right. See what I'm saying? And if I wanted to use two white folks that y'all know about, to really drive my point home, let's pick a mixed dude who people think is white, like Keanu Reeves. People think Keanu Reeves is full white, but Keanu Reeves' father is Japanese. Okay, but Keanu Reeves looks like a white person. For all intents and purposes, I bet you in all his applications, he strike white. You know what I'm saying? Right. But look at Keanu Reeves, and then let's compare him to a guy like who's somebody who we know is an octoroon or a quadroon, but don't want to act like they are. Let's think of somebody famous. Come on. Who y'all? Who's one of them's? Who's one of them's that Ron Perlman. There we go. My hitter Ron. Because people think he's racist. Look at Ron Perlman, right? And we'll compare the two. So on one side, you got my man Ron, right? And not that he's a handsome individual or nothing like that, because doesn't strike me as a handsome person, but his features are very distinct. But he could pass for white. But Keanu Reeves, follow what I'm saying, has straight hair. Ron Perlman, little do niggas know, has curlier type hair. That's why he never grows his hair. Any movie you ever seen Ron Perlman in with long hair, it's a hairpiece. Okay? A lot of people didn't know this. Ron Perlman was married to a black woman for like 30 years, up until last year. Right. Has 2 children by her and all that stuff. Once again, just because he looks white, people think he's white, I guess. But if you really look at I swear to God, if you look at Ron Perlman, because tell me another white dude who looks just like him. Name one other than, like, let's say, like Randall Tex Cobb from back in the day, he's a white dude who used to get a perm. You can't get a perm and your hair just get curly. Your hair has to already be curly. Right on? The only thing you could do is put a curling iron on it, but he has Randall Tex Cobb had naturally curly hair. Look, once again, I bet you he struck white on all those applications, but he might have known different than otherwise. Ron Perlman is no fucking different. Word? No different. Keanu Reeves looks like a white dude, but I know for a fact his dad is Japanese. That's a fact. So you got cats who be moonlighting all day, every day as something that they're not. And that's what Rick's ultimate goal is. They have to confuse and man, some of these cats in the White House are suspect. What? Like, I mean, we'll never know until the end is happening who really is who. We're not going to know, like, on what side do these cats stand. But just know that there are too many individuals guaranteed that you don't know who they really are. You look at them and you're like, oh, that's a fact. This person's probably that. But you don't know but you haven't seen both of their parents. So you actually don't know. And if they haven't disclosed that to you, then you really wouldn't know. You follow what I'm saying? The dude who played in a Prison Break as the main character, he's a gay boy in real life, but his dad is a mixed breed black dude, light skinned mixed breed dude, right? And he identifies, you know what I'm saying, as being black, as being biracial, even though he looked white than a motherfucker. Nancy Pelosi is a Latina. She not was, she can't, she was born a Latina. When she leaves Earth, she will be a Latina. Can you dig that? She just because that name is Pelosi, right? You know, I forget her actual last name. You know, we'll leave her alone. We won't look it up. But her maiden name is not Pelosi, you know. And no disrespect to her. If she didn't have the complexion for the protection, as they like to say, right? If she didn't have knockers when she was young and just wasn't a bimbo, she wouldn't be nobody. That's no disrespect. That's just what it is. Okay? So, because she wouldn't be the only well-busted Latina, okay, who didn't make it in life. All right? She wouldn't be the first. But it just so happens that, right, she looked like a white person. Can you dig it? She don't go around here yelling and screaming everything in Spanish. Right. But in her direct line of fire, in her direct family, is somebody who looking like Ocasio-Cortez or looking like us. Believe that. Her grandpapa, somebody like that, was a nigga. Believes that. Like my man Steven said in Django. Right on? He said, I don't give a goddamn what you believe. Okay? He said, I know if you don't stop all that carrying on, he gonna blow this bitch's brains out. Okay? Look, I'm telling you, believes that, my friends. All right? That's a fact. So when they try to tell you that, this person is this race, you don't actually know that. You do not actually know. Look at Klay Thompson. I need to stress this to y'all again. Klay Thompson is the most convincible, like white skin looking mixed dude that I can think of. Like where it's like cuts. If you didn't know, if Klay had his hair cut, faded all the way down, and you just didn't know him from nobody, and you were just passing by, you would think he was a white dude. And hell, if his hair was curly and he had it gelled up, you might even dismiss him as a curly haired white dude. Facts over fiction. So y'all can't tell me that you know who Rick is just because y'all looking at these. Every day y'all see Rick. How about that? Every day y'all see Rick. Every day. Somebody, unless you don't leave your home in that occasion, fine. But on your TV, you see Rick. Whatever you entertain and watch, unless all you watch is black faces. That's all you watch is nigga shit. Everything I watch gotta have nothing but niggas in it, right? Whatever. Unless that's all you're into, you see Rick every day. And you see him in so many different mediums, you didn't even realize that was Rick. You'd be like, damn, that's Rick? That's Rick, bro. Right. When y'all go into some of these taquerias and you think that's a Mexican in there, that's really an Asian dude in there. Right. If you ever wanted to know why do these Chinese restaurants and all that be having Mexicans working in the back, it's because these are their distant cousins, their distant relatives, right out the bowels of the earth. Okay, number one. Number two is that you can't tell the difference. If he doesn't come out here speaking Spanish, you'll never know the difference. Right. Unless you can really look and tell, like, oh, okay, his ears aren't pinned back enough to really be Japanese. His ears are kind of too fanned out to be Japanese. Or his ears aren't big enough to be Asian, or whatever your deduction that you believe that you've come to after all your experience with a certain persuasion and diaspora of a so-called people. But you can't tell me that you can go into a... You're not going to convince me that if you dress up a bunch of Mexicans to look like Asians, that you're going to know that you're not going to convince me that you're going to know that they're not Asian. You're going to go, oh, that's a Mexican for sure. I know it. Just look at the way he's walking. He's Mexican. That's bullshit. That's bullshit. That's bullshit. And I know it is. And any of those cats that are from south of the border who aren't built very tall, they aren't built very big. They, once again, they have such a similar phenotype and genotype that unless you actually know them, how do you know that? And I'm trying to tell y'all, man, that Rick's true goal is to weigh this bitch down the way that we can't. They monitor how many children black people have. Hypersensitive to it. Hypersensitive to that. They applaud you when you don't have children as a black person. Think about that. We'll celebrate a white person, so-called white person, Gentile thing, for having a large family, pat them on the back, and will shun us, a true people, for having babies, for having just one baby. Oh, you can't afford that baby? While they on welfare, straight up welfare recipient, getting all kinds of motherfucking aid from the state or from the whoever, their city government, their state government, whatever government they're getting some kind of assistance from, and got the nerve to try to G-check black people about how many babies they're gonna have. But they don't G-check the damn Russians, right? And the Asians come over here and pop out a bunch of babies. Quiet is kept. Quiet is kept. I know way more Asian families that are large, right on, than I know Asian families that are small. That's quiet as kept. I know way more Asian dudes that I can think of right now who have even just one baby mama. They have at least 3 or 4 children. Ain't nobody sweating them about having babies. That's why they have to be the ones to do the shit that we can't do, because nobody's going to sweat them. And by the time they realize that they allowed Rick in here, by the time they realize that Rick is almost running the show, it'll be too late. It'll be too late for them to stop what. So if you guys are old enough, all of us who are old enough to know this one, they used to have this saying where they used to say, if white people say, they would be like, if white people can't run the world, they'll blow this motherfucker up. Right? Be real. Be real. Everybody who's watching, just be real with me. If you've heard that, tell me right there. Just go ahead and let your boy know if you've ever heard that right there. That before they relinquish power, they will blow this bitch up. The whole fucking earth. Who's heard that before? And just be honest. And I'm gonna wait for half a second because I need somebody to go ahead and keep a 100,000 with your boy. Who's heard that one? That they will blow this whole bitch up if they can't keep the power. So, look, it doesn't take the whole crowd, right on. Thank you. Yep, we know that one. So the only way that they could not blow this motherfucker up is if yeah, that movie, yeah. But bro, that's just the truth. That is who they are. Okay? They will blow this bitch up. That's what they think they'll do. That's what they've projected out there. Okay? That if they can't have power, nobody can. That's their way of getting down. Whew. So look, my point is this. My point is this. Once Rick has taken over enough of the vital functions and stations, they won't have that option. Can you hear me? Rick doesn't want to die. Where? Rick does not. Rick wants to be on Earth more than Rick wants to die. It's not because they're in the East that they believe in something other than themselves. It's because they've seen enough suffering. You understand? They've seen enough suffering. Do y'all realize? I read an article the other day about North Korea, right? And it was talking about how, listen to this shit. This shit is real. This is what I know is real. They said that the elite in North Korea are going to the border of China and trading gold and copper and aluminum and all kinds of other valuable minerals for food to keep from starving. It's that bad over there, they said. Do you know why it's that bad, though? Because that's right. The main beneficiaries of slavery have choked them off from the fucking known world. Right. That'll do that to you. That'll make it to where you have to go. They make it to where, bro, the North Koreans' only option is to deal with the Chinese. One of the future Ricks we're going to talk about, maybe not the next one, but in this, I'm going to touch on it now so that way y'all will get what I'm going to say. It's all the proxy wars. You know, all the proxy wars that Rick has tried to fight throughout the years just to see where they actually stand. To realize, like, okay, we're not ready to fight them. People don't want to hear about the Russians being in Vietnam. Don't want to hear about that. They don't want to hear about in Korea, in the so-called Korean War. It should be called the Chinese War because that's who we were fighting. Nobody wants to hear that while we were in Iraq the first time, right? The first go around, one of the true fears was that Iran would get involved, but they didn't. And they didn't get involved directly, but they got involved indirectly in the second go around. And that was a fear in the second go around. In 2003, man, I was 12 years old. I'll never forget it. It was a headline that says, "The mother of all wars," right on? And that's what is considered, is the war with Iran and Iraq, and over there, that they're like, that's it. That's the one. I don't know if people understand how well trained and well disciplined the Iranian forces are. Super well trained and super well disciplined. Okay, we're talking about cats who literally, while there's rounds buzzing by their head, maintain their cool and just put rounds down range. Case in point, most of y'all probably never heard about this. There was an Iranian special forces soldier who killed 3 special forces operators all by himself with just a pistol, cuz. Got out. Look, they were at a checkpoint. All right? He hopped out the car. 3 white boys and the Iranian dude. Listen, he hops out the car out of nowhere, just starts blasting on them. They tried to shoot back and everything. Still laid him out, cuz. Listen, with a pistol. Listen, with a pistol. Can you feel me? Got killed by one dude. These 3 so-called special forces motherfuckers. So-called, dog. Operators and all that shit. That's a fact. So listen, why do people not want to understand that the Americans don't want to go toe-to-toe with them? Because if they did want to go toe-to-toe with them, they would have went over there fucking with them in the first place. They would have. They don't want none of Rick, man. At this point in the game, Rick is so well trained that they can go toe-to-toe if it's really toe-to-toe now. They can't. Rick can't go bomb for bomb just yet, but they're right there. But they know that how far America is and how close they are to one another is why they can't attack. I'm trying to break it down to y'all. Russia and China are right next to one another. Iran is just right underneath, the Eastern Bloc. So the ability of them all being attacked at one time is far greater than you come away across the water to attack America. It's just, I'm not saying that the likelihood is unlikely and that the scenario can't happen. It's just they're all in one area. Russia, Iran, China. Rick. Okay? That's Rick. Russia, Iran, China. That is who Rick is, my brother. See, that's why Rick is so important that I can speak on any individual part of Rick, right? I can speak to just the Chinese part of it and just say Rick, because we all understand that we're talking about a contingent group here because they're all working together. Word? The Chinese, the Russians, the Iranians are all working together. Okay? They're no longer trying to individually accomplish almost the impossible. Black people, something bad about to happen to a lot of us. I just don't see anything good coming from all this shooting outs. I just don't see anything good I don't see anything good coming from this stuff. All the federal investigations that are still open, that were open in the Trump administration, that the Biden administration is not going to close. I'm not going to tell you that. That's just like them continuing the construction of the wall. They're going to silently, if they already haven't, start rebuilding that wall. Start finishing it up. Do whatever they can. Because like I said, the prophecy need be fulfilled. That what? The broad walls of Babylon come down. And its high gates burn in fire. There are gates at the border. Right on. There's certain entries. I just need y'all to understand. There are no walled cities in America. Okay? There are none. But they're building a wall for Babylon right now. Well, I want y'all to understand. The wall, they can call it the wall, but the wall is not a fucking straight line. So there's different walls. It's going to happen. But y'all got to let Rick get into position to do what they got to do. Listen, the U.S. government can actively work to try to keep this shit from happening. They'll only make it happen even more. Their only option, I keep trying to tell everybody their only options. Their only options is to give us everything, okay? And to fall on the sword while they give us everything. And that's that. I know that sounds like a tall fucking order. That's a less tall order than almost all of them being obliterated. And then their bloodline for sure being washed out, being amalgamated all the way in, and then them being all the way washed out as if they never were. They can have it their way. See, once again, when you're ready to go, and Rick is ready to go. See, I'm not saying that Rick is on a suicide mission, but I don't know if people understand the suffering that they've made Rick to go through. They brought debauchery to the East. There's always going to be sin as far as until the Most High God comes back. There's always going to be sin. So, having said that, I'm not saying that Rick wasn't living in sin before. I'm saying that the life that Rick was forced to live after the West, or what people call the West now, consider the West now, forced their ways onto them. Forced their daughters to become whores. Forced their sons to become derelict homosexuals. Forced that on them. They're ready to go. Rick is ready to go. Rick is like, you know what? There's worse things than dying. And they've seen it with their own eyes. And I know it's hard for folks to believe this, but the wicked shit they were doing to black people, they were trying to exercise this on other folks. So the same shitty way that they would treat a nigga, they was trying to go treat Rick. Once again, that's why that whole white black shit is, to call yourself white is such a bullshit cop out, because if you know that you're a goddamn Georginsky, you know for a fact that there was a time when your people weren't considered white in this land, and we're treated like shit. Right? They know that. You think the Georginskys forgot? You think the McClures, the Campbells, you think they all forgot how they were treated? Right on. Just to point out, little Irish dudes and all that. They haven't forgot. They're ready. Y'all think that they forgot. See, only niggas talk about forgiveness. And only black people make forgiveness tantamount to forgetting. Rick is like, neither have I forgot and neither will I forgive. That's the shit Rick is on. Rick hasn't forgotten their people getting pimped out and getting strung out. Rick hasn't forgotten. Just in case y'all didn't, once again, I know people be knowing this stuff, but just in case y'all really didn't take it in consideration, Russia, during World War II, lost millions of people. Men and women. China, during World War II, was oppressed by the Japanese. That's why the Japanese, I'm not saying I don't count them in the Rick contingency. It's just that they're so far removed, right? They're so far removed that I would have to see them do something that I was like, okay, I know that they're waiting to go turncoat on America. Until further notice, I don't know that. I know the Chinese is like, we're not having it. Thank you. Just in case people don't know, the Americans used to be stationed in China. The Marine Corps was there for a long time. People didn't know that, huh? Right. China, one of the few places to successfully get the Americans up out of there. Like, y'all got to go. This is for real. Rick will neither forget nor forgive. And I don't blame him. If y'all are going to blame Rick for being angry about the situation, then y'all don't deserve reparations. That's that simple. They should be pissed off. Like I said, they are not the main recipients of the fuckery. But they're barreling down the same fate. They're looking at the same fate. They're looking at the same end that everyone else is looking at because of something that they didn't even start. So Rick is trying to finish this shit with some actual steam. But they're not trying to get a whole part. Listen, the whole eastern side of the world, the whole rest of the world is all the way on the other side. And America has bases set up where? Everywhere, just about. Everywhere that's not, a major superpower, right? Everywhere that doesn't have like a really well-established military, right? So what could they really do? Be honest for a second. What could they really do? That's right, nothing. That's the problem. Can you feel me? They can't start that problem like that. They have to be in a position where they can keep that sort of attack from happening, at least to mitigate the damage and to mitigate the harm. Because that's their only option. They don't have another option. They don't have another choice to say, okay, we're gonna attack these dudes heads up, and then we'll see what happens. No, that they don't have that option. They don't have that choice. The whole eastern side of the earth will be it'll be scorched earth, literally. That's that. And folks don't want to hear it. You know what I'm saying? They don't want to see it like that, but that's the truth. Before I head out here in the next 5 minutes, 10 minutes, I just want to stress that to y'all again. That like, look, they want to fight. They just can't. How Earth is set up, how it's all separated, they can't afford that kind and sort of struggle. They can't afford that. It's almost suicide. It's practically pretty much suicide. So their goal is that they have to incept into all these. They've already incepted every level of the government, but now they have to to make sure that it's incepted to the point to where they have cushion. So if you're a trader and you realize that you're in a group full of people that aren't traders, well, there has to be at least another trader that can. There has to be levels where, okay, they have to get through this person, but they have to go through all these protocols just to get to me. You follow what I'm saying? So they're trying to get to the level and the place to where they're at the highest levels of the protocol. You can't stop them. You can't stop me now. Right. Don't worry. Black people ain't never going to do shit because they get to the highest level and then they do the moving on, they do the damn fucking Jefferson's theme song. You know what I'm saying? Fish don't fry in the kitchen, beans don't burn on the grill. Yeah. Yeah, they do that. They're next at bat, right? You follow what I'm saying? That's how niggas are. Rick's not like that. Rick's not like, I'm next at bat. Rick's like, give me the bat so I can show you what I plan on doing to the coach. Word? Because I heard the coach touch his little boys. Right. That's what Rick is on. Rick's like, fuck that forgiveness stuff. Let it be. You can't make them be who you are. Just because you have forgiveness in you doesn't mean that you have to try to force them to be forgetful. And maybe you can learn something from Rick. That you can forgive without forgetting. You don't have to be as vengeful as, once again, vengeance is mine, says the Lord. Of course, if I can obviously just watch it, if I can be the instrument of vengeance, come on, I will gladly take that place. But if that's not my spot and that's not my station, that's not the hand I'm trying to play then. Because guess what? Rick knows that you cannot be, they understand ruthlessness in a way that you could never understand it because they're genetically different than you, than me. Right on? They have a level of being straight unmerciful that folks could never understand. Right on? Folks could never understand it. Folks could never get it. This is a fact. This is a straight up, real life, real deal fact. No bullshit. So I want y'all to understand, I want y'all to know that it's not as easy as folks like to think that it is. Right on? You can't be so quick to think that whatever you want to come to you, right? It's not just going to manifest out of nowhere. Rick knows this. Rick has seen this. Rick literally watched a place that was full of trees, and for the want of a better term, some of the land barren, right? And what it did bear, it was like, I don't know, it was all wild here. It was just a wilderness, a true wilderness. They watched it come from that to being this full functioning thing that it is now. Rick didn't have the same boost up that this place did. So they understand that you have to literally put the work in to get the results. Rick understands putting your head down and just working. See, some of these brothers and sisters, they live on the laurels of what their ancestors did. I don't live on the laurels of what I worked hard in my own life. I have my own real muscles and all that type of stuff. I've done that myself. So I'm not living on the laurels of a slave who got worked to death and got no credit for nothing that they done. And there's a lot of black people who live on the laurels of their ancestors and throw that around as if that means that you did it. Right on? Because that's bullshit. So Rick, once again, gets that they can't live on the laurels of yesteryear or yesterday for that matter. They have to live on the laurels of what have I done today? What am I doing? What is the active approach that I'm taking to make this different? If I can't actively do anything about it, what can I plan to do so that way I can actively do something about it? How can I put myself in a position to become an active participant? And Rick has had to play in the back and wait their turn to find out what it is that they'll get. And once again, now they're at a level where they've incepted into the government at the highest levels of our society. Right on? They have sleepers who own a plethora of businesses all across the entire United States. When I say sleepers, I'm talking about folks that are waiting to get a phone call to be activated. No jokes. No jokes, no lies, no none of that. They have taken the time to establish themselves in certain financial mediums. So everything that they were locked out at first, once the game was no longer about building up America, so to speak, right, and building up this nation, it became how can we oppress these niggas that are no longer in hardcore serious bondage? And because they left off of trying to choke out and to keep out all of those that they didn't want to get the fatness of the land, so to speak, the fat of the land, right? The ill-gotten gains, those individuals were then allowed and have been allowed to now participate. And because they have done their best to not rock the boat, right, that they are now in a position where they might actually be able to do a true hostile takeover while we yet live. That's the truth. How long their hostile takeover would last or what it would look like, I have no idea. But I do have the feeling that it would be quieter than most people knew. Once again, this motherfucker's name is Padawowski in the military. They calling him American. You know what I mean? No disrespect to anybody with that kind of last name, with who would ski or itch or none of that. Steins or none of that. The Bergs. I'm not hating on nobody with no type of last name. I'm not trying to go hard on them. What I'm saying is that the cats who are their most imminent enemies, they have placed them in the ranks at the highest levels in their militaries. Right. Right. I mean, sure, other countries might take a defecting soldier, but to think that you're going to go find a bunch of black guys in the Chinese military, it's not happening. Yeah, exactly, bro. Just like the Olympic national teams. Right. Right. Just like the one here in America. They pull cats that aren't even from here, right? That's what they do. That's how they get down. So people have to recognize what it looks like. This is what it is. Like I said, before I roll out, we're at a position, we're in a critical junction where we have to recognize and realize that they who that are the enemy and they who will continue to be the enemy, they have no intent on changing. Right? So Rick has done the smartest thing, which is to play the passive hand and just act like you don't really have a problem. I want y'all to think about this. The Cold War pretty much drove the USSR to splinter off and break up into pieces, right? The Russians, once again, like I said, their pride was so strong after World War II that they didn't want to start making toothbrushes and all that stuff and toothpaste and deodorant and comb. They had too much pride for all that. So when the fall actually happened, the Russians, they didn't have so much pride that they wouldn't take help. Were they acted as if they were like, okay, we're defeated. You got us. But look at the strength of Russia right now. Right. Where they played the game like that. They said, okay, we'll act like we're weak. We're we'll act like we don't got no juice. And 40 years later, 41 years later, whatever. Now they're talking about the Russians have an arsenal that could very well surpass the United States. Only thing that keeps the U.S. safe is how far we are from them. Like I said, right, right. You hear what I'm saying, y'all? Can you dig me? Can you feel that? That they had to play a certain role, and then 41 years later, they're able to be like, "Cuz, I think we can take you." Right. The Chinese, the similar thing. They used to make jokes about how worthless the Chinese money was when I was a little boy. Wasn't that long ago that China was still broke and not balling. Right. Now look at them. They're at least the second largest, if not actually the largest economy in the world. Because they did what? They played their part. Thank you. That's what they done. They played their part so everything lined up for them like that. You see what I'm saying? And that's how that goes. The Iranians, they played middleman broker, they played strongman, they played reinforcer, they played enforcer, they played pretty much every role you could play as somebody who's like a mediary, right? So when all the oil stuff jumped off, they didn't they didn't come up like everybody else came up, right on? Their money came from things almost being forced and thrust upon them. You see what I'm saying? But they played their hand though. Right. Because I need y'all to understand this. No disrespect to the continent. But look how the continent played their hand. Right. With nobody interrupting them, with nobody doing nothing to them, with no white folks trying to attack them with guns for a long time. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, Rick had to learn the hard way though. So it's not because Rick is a genius they played their hand like that. It's because Rick had learned the hard way from before that if you play your hand with a group who has it seems like immeasurable and unknowable power, you're gonna lose. So all you can do is keep waiting them out and hope to see their strength wane over a period of time to where you start to understand that we actually can compete with them. And that's the battle and that's the struggle right now, is that when I say Rick, once again, brothers and sisters, that's Russia, Iran, China, right? And Rick has all the reasoning to want to do something. They do. The oppression was real for them. Even though nobody's ever known oppression like black people, the fact, I need y'all to understand this, the fact that they're not niggas and they felt that level of oppression should give you an idea of how they feel right now. Knowing that they can rationalize like, cuz, how could they treat us like that knowing that they already had everything? It's a basic rationale. It ain't nothing complicated to that. And when folks can come to that kind of conclusion and say, you know what? Damn, how would I feel if you weren't black? How would you feel, right? If you came from a group, a so-called named nation, you spoke that language and everything, had national pride and all that. And then one day you come to the conclusion of you're like, you know what? This group over here, the only reason why they're rich is because they got to enslave another group that had we stopped them from enslaving them, it wouldn't even happen like that. But because we sat back and ha-ha and kikied and thought it was funny, now here we are this many years later, we're looking at the situation like, damn, we probably actually should have done something. But when we wanted to get a foothold into something, into anything we tried, this group had already made it a point, or they had found their way to undermining us. That shit would get at you. Because you would then be looking at it like, damn, they ruined everything. At some level, y'all have to really stand back and just, once again, climb up to this mountaintop with me and look out of this telescope and tell me what you see. Can y'all not understand why a person would be angry about something like that? You're saying that these black people are slaves. Okay, that's fine. You're saying that you came here and strung out a whole country. I need y'all to get this right here. While niggas was still slaves. So there was nothing to get us strung out on like that. Maybe some hooch. But get me. There's no such thing as a derelict slave. Even a runaway slave is not derelict. Not to me. Right on? Because you done something to make them run away. But if you're looking down and you're looking at this telescope, you're like, damn, I'm not a nigga. So how the fuck can you treat me like this? Right. You literally turned my whole country into dope addicts, stole all of our silver, and act like we got a problem after you did some fucked up shit. You see what I'm saying? Y'all came over here and forced oil pipelines through villages where people weren't bothering nobody. Forced this way of opulent life, this opulent lifestyle onto people who never knew nothing about it. Made our daughters whores, made our sons derelicts. The Russians, right? They're like unknowable amounts of sacrifices made, right? For every single major conflict. You see what I'm saying? And you lock us out of all the good things. This is how you do us. You got to understand where Rick is coming from. And friends, okay? I could go back to the good neighbor policy with Theodore Roosevelt, speak softly, carry a big stick, okay? All the uber violent things that America practiced that has put them in a position where all the opposition has a reason to hate them. Because at the end of the day, like, I'm a black person. I get that. When people do shit to me, I can figure like, okay, Meech, well, what did you say or do that forced them or that at least encouraged them to respond that way? If I can't deduce that I've done anything that actually warranted or merited a response or the actions that were taken against me, I have to logically come to the fact that this person is probably a bigot and a racist. I have no other conclusion. So when people treat me a certain type of way, even though it's wrong, the world is conditioned to think that that's okay. Rick is like, yo, when was it ever okay to mistreat us? That's what Rick is trying to figure out. And once again, their ultimate goal is to weigh it all down. They were too far apart to go toe to toe, literally like that. So you can't bring the people here. You can't bring your forces here without it being obvious. So the only thing you can do, right, is to through all the classes that are already here, all the people that are already here, is incept your way into those different levels and echelons of society and quietly bring your numbers and through by all means, through illicit vice, crime, violence, whatever y'all want to say, by all means, are they going to try to carry out this objective? What else do y'all think is, once again, what is the end game for the Chinese buying up all that land? Word? What is the end game for that? What is the end game for all these cats who are playing defector to their countries and are coming over here, right? What's the end game to that? What's the end game for all the Russians and all the Eastern Bloc people who've been here for a long time? Right. You were forced to leave your home because the descendants of the English and the British made your home uninhabitable by ways of war. So you were forced to relocate. Once again, what's the end game for somebody like that? If you have a working, operating mind, how can you just let bygones be bygones? How can you let that go? If black people are still, we're not ever going to stop talking about slavery until our memory gets wiped. It ain't going to happen. We'll always talk about slavery. So what makes you think that for something that is not, there is nothing like our experience? Once again, I can't state and stress that enough. But that doesn't take away from every other experience. That doesn't mean that what they went through, they didn't go through. They went through that. So when you see or meet or come across someone who is not indigenous to the so-called land of America, not saying that I'm indigenous here, right on, but I'm way more original to this land than somebody who just got here. And their sentiment may be gracious because they're alive. They're like, oh, I'm alive and I'm well. So yeah, that's cool. But on the flip side, I'm only here because this same country devastated where I'm from. That has to play into someone's mind. And Rick, nobody's going to convince me that Rick does not have that in their mind. That's on Rick's mind. Rick is constantly, actively thinking about stuff like that. Like, yo, how did I end up on the shit end of the stick? I mean, wouldn't you ask yourself that? Think about this. The Roaring 20s, they fucked off so much money. It's crazy. It's crazy how much money got fucked off. Do y'all understand what was going on in the 20s in Russia and all that stuff and all these places? Folks starving, folks revolting, cats going crazy. The same thing in China, okay? While the white man is just around that time pushing his way into the so-called Middle East and is going to force these folks into becoming oil tycoons, right? While over here in this land and over in Britain, they just yucking it up, having a good old time, splurging. That, when you understand that kind of history, that has to affect how you go about stuff. Vlad Putin's almost 70. So y'all got to really understand. A guy his age really knows, like, this is bullshit. Vlad might even be 70. He's up there. Listen, he knows what some bullshit is. He's like, folks in America don't understand how hard it was on everyone else. And then for black people to be treated the way that they, who's gonna save you if I can't save myself, how I'm gonna save you? So even if I have the mind and the heart to do something for you, how am I gonna help you if I can't do anything? Because now I'm hamstrung. Think about that. Rick was put in a very unique position where they were made to fail. They were set up to fail by the same groups that have oppressed us for all these hundreds of years that we've been here. I don't know. I couldn't tell you. If Rick told them that they were going to fight, if Rick told them that what they were doing to us is wrong, I don't know what pushed. I don't know what made everything so sour. Because think about that. France, Germany, Spain, even the Italians, the Deutsch, Portugal, all those places over there, they all did really well. You know, they all came up off of slavery. So how could how the Russians not come up? The only logical reasoning, like I told y'all, is because these cats were who? They were Muslims for a long time. Excuse me. So what does that mean? That's right. They were on the wrong side of the crusade, like I said. So when everything happened and everything played all the way out the way that it did, now we're starting to see why that was such an important thing. Now we're starting to see why religion is so important when you start to weigh all that stuff into it. Now you're starting to see why the Chinese have never forgot about the Christian missionaries. Right. They've never forgot about them. All the Jesuit priests and all that type of stuff. Coming in there raping women and leaving all kind of bastard children around and just being sleuths. Straight up fucking monsters. But once again, they endured that, they persevered that, and they went through that, right? And here they still stand. So now they're like, okay, we'll just be the Buddhist, we'll just claim to be Buddhist, okay, by and large, because we don't want to be Christians. We don't want that. We don't want that title. But we will keep tabs and we will keep that in our mind that y'all did try to force that on us. So that's why they try to just, once again, Rick is playing their hand the best way that they can play it. I'm telling you. Rick is playing the best hand that they can play. Because if they do anything else, I mean, dude, America can still sanction the country because all the other countries that I mentioned and a few other ones, they'll just team up and say, yeah, that's right. Cut them off. What? Cut them off. Don't take any good. Excuse me. Don't take any of their goods, right? And don't send anything to them. Cut them off. They can make it to where it costs a shit ton of money for you to ship your goods out of your own country. Because their navy's right at the end of your shit. They'll set up a blockade and shut it down. Right. That type of shit. Why else are they doing this? People want to say it's not religious. What is it then? Excuse me. Right on. If it's not religious, what is it? That's my thing. What else? What compelled America to withhold the goodness and the fat and the ill-gotten gains from Rick? Were they forced on the Rick a way of life? Excuse me. That he doesn't even believe. Right on? So it's like this is the best way I could put it. You go to church. I don't know how many people were forced. Thank you, brother. I appreciate it. I don't know how many of us were forced to go to church as children, right? I was forced to go to church, right? Which is fine. You raise up a child the way that they should go. When they're older, they will not depart. That's fine. But one of the issues that I have, though, right, is that because I was forced to go to church, some of the things that it took me longer to accept certain things that I might have already accepted readily. What's popping, bro? You know what I'm saying? That I might have let go, that I might have said, you know what, it's no big deal, right? But because I was I was blinded by my own pride as a little boy. I don't know what it was, right? I just couldn't see the truth. The Russians and all these cats are no different, right on? Where it's like, they couldn't see the truth. Like, yo, bro, the only reason why they're doing this to you is because of what y'all used to believe and how y'all believed. Word? It's for no other reason. Because if it was for any other reason, let's say it was for a good reason, what would that reason be? That they didn't participate by and large in slavery? Is that why you locked them out of it? Is that why you locked them out the goodness? And they had to force the, because now chattel slavery is over. So know that because it's over, they can't hold them out of it, and the world frowns on shit like that, so to speak. But everywhere that's having a major crisis with the populace, outside with the respect to China, right? Because their issue with their populace is for a whole other reasons. France, Germany, hell, you can even throw Greece in there, because those guys, not these white skinned bastards calling themselves Grecians, but the actual true nigga Greeks, okay? They all benefited. They all, once again, all those places, Spain, going through terrible finances, all those places benefited directly from slavery, though. Look at the shit that's going on in the UK right now, the Brexit and all that stuff, right? But they are direct beneficiaries of slavery. You follow what I'm saying? The issues that you're going to see with the populace in a place like that is monetarily related. The issue they're having in Russia is not exactly about money and finances so much as it is as the government and how it runs itself. The same thing in China. Right. The issue that the people have in India is how the government runs itself, because it's so fucking corrupt. Right. Not because the issue that the French have, the yellow vest, is because there used to be a day of good and fucking plenty. Okay? When have we ever known of Russia to be talking about the good and plenty? or the Chinese. Dude, you have to watch a movie about their history. And it's a make-believe setting that no longer exists. But I can tell you about when I was a little boy in America, about the end of the good and plenty. When I'm like, damn, as a grown-ass man, now I'm like, yeah, there was still good and plenty when I was a little boy. Because they were still putting like real, like, it seemed like real cheese on chips. You know what I mean? Like, seemed like it was still real chocolate going into stuff, right? Mambas still had milk in them before they were vegan approved, that type of thing. So, man, anyway, a whole lot going on, right on. Whole lot going on. Gotta go and, well, my roommate, he about to go look out for my pops. Guess he got a flat tire. So hope he gonna be okay. But anyhow, one thing after another, nigga stuff. But back to what I was just saying though. Rick never had good and plenty. Bro. But I'm just saying, you know what I mean? Like, they never. Okay, look at Iran, right? For however much money this country's supposed to be making, there's still not good. There's not plenty to go around, right? We need to look at it like this. Even though we're the descendants of slaves, and even though America is the devil and it is racist, you know what I'm saying? All those things said, all those things in mind, is still the word I'm looking for, man. It's like there's just a way to be about things. You know what I'm saying? There's just a way to be about things, y'all. You feel what I'm saying? There's a way to go about good business, and there's a way to not do certain things. And the way that it was handled with the Iranians, the Russians, and the Chinese, the way that it was handled with Rick, America wouldn't even be. I wouldn't be able to make this video if America hadn't done what it done. I need y'all to realize that. Word? I wouldn't be able to go on for 2.5 hours just talking about what seems like nothing, but is actually a major thing. This is going to affect us because they keep talking about these three groups in the media, but I've been talking about them for years. I didn't just start talking about this, okay? I've been talking about this for years. And so I'm just now able to explain more fully why it is that these things have to come about. It has to be like this, y'all. I'm going to say this and then I end on this note for real. Because there was never good and plenty for Rick, Rick doesn't have jealousy of us for having what little we do have. Because Rick knows what was taken from us to get to this point. Can I say that Rick cares? Can't say it. But do I care that Rick doesn't care? No, I don't give a damn. You see what I'm saying? Rick not caring doesn't move the needle for me. It doesn't change anything for me. Rick caring doesn't change the needle. It doesn't move it. It doesn't change anything for me. What it does is it just puts me in a position. I know what you're talking about, bro. Confection. I know what you were talking about right when you said it. Talking about the sweet stuff. But yeah, Rick's situation is one that was created, and they don't have to care about our situation because Rick didn't create the situation that we currently are in. And like I said, I could contend that even though they were on the losing side of the battle, they still fought a more. I mean, do you think that we end up slaves of the Russians, the Chinese, and the Iranians if the Christians don't win the crusade, pretty much? Because the Otto-Turk Empire was around back then. Right. And it didn't fall until the end of World War I, they claim. Right. See what I'm saying? I mean, look, y'all. Rick doesn't owe me or you anything. Nothing. Okay? Rick doesn't owe us anything. But what they're going to do is they're going to level an uneven playing field. And it's not even going to be for me and you to play on. It's just so that way you can without any hills, mounds, or lumps or bumps being in your way for you to stand aside, brothers and sisters. Let them do the heavy lifting. Your ancestors did all the heavy lifting to get us here. Okay? They did all the hard work that a person has to do. I bless and I love all my brothers and sisters. Y'all know I do. I just I go hard for what I think is the right thing. When I say think, because folks like to try to challenge and say that you don't know that. Well, oh, sure, okay, that's fine. If you believe that I don't know that, that's fine. But know that everything I've said today, tonight, whenever you watched it, tomorrow, whenever, it's all valid. And I know I went around the world and I went to some other areas and all that stuff, but brothers and sisters, like I said before I go out here, they don't owe it to us to do the right thing. They're doing the right thing because it's the right thing. They owe it to God to do the right thing, but they don't owe it to me and you. You understand that? Right. There's no proof that their ancestors fought to enslave you. And all these people talk about this anti-black this and anti-black that. Look, man. There have been more non-American, non-black people to be helpful to black people's to our endeavors than there have been non-American black people to be helpful to our endeavors. And that's a fact. Right. You barely ever hear stories of black people going to China and getting fleeced, or going to any country and getting fleeced. But when we go to Africa, what do? They fleece us. So once again, Rick is not your main concern or your main problem. And they don't owe you a darn thing. So come the day of, it's not here yet, but as the days get closer, find yourself getting out the way. Remove yourself from the immediate danger vicinity, because the fight that you think is your fight is not your fight. They're fighting a 1,000-year battle right now. They're fighting the crusade all over again. They want to round to it or whatever, let them do it. I don't care. Just get out the way, y'all. Nobody stopped us from becoming enslaved all those years ago. They didn't have the mind and the wherewithal to do it, or they just didn't care. Whatever. Now that cats want to do something about it, the witchcraft and the sorcery is so powerful on the earth that they can't just come do something about it. Get out the way, black people. Brothers and sisters, you know I salute you. It is always an honor and a pleasure to speak about whatever we speak about. But in particular instance, and the next one for sure, we're gonna touch Rick up, and we're gonna get more into their history, and we're gonna talk about We won't delve off into religion or the politics, but we will talk about the way of life and the culture of Rick in Russia, Iran, and China. And we're going to talk about, once again, why they must do what they must do. And we end on this note. Honor will be the reason. Brothers and sisters, we're out.